So a few days ago, the alliance of the Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, decided to withdraw from the ICC, the International Criminal Court. They said since its inception, since 2002, we know the ICC was created in 1998 in Rome and later on established in 2002, now with over 120 members. So a few countries didn't join, especially powers, big powers like the United States, India, China, and so on. So these countries were among the first to join. And later on, they discovered that this institution is meant to persecute African, because since its inception, it conducted 33 cases. Out of the 33, 32 are Africans, with the exception of the former president of the Philippines, Rodrigo Duterte. So 32 all are Africans, like Omar Hassan al-Bashir, the former president of Sudan, and Jean-Pierre Bemba, and those people. So these three countries decided to withdraw from the ICC, the International Criminal Court. Though the process might take a year, but they consider themselves not to be members anymore. And we need to know that the ICC normally, even if a country is not a member, if the United States Security Council accepted somebody can be persecuted by the ICC, that person can be persecuted, like the case of Benjamin Netanyahu. And these three leaders of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, they said the ICC is incompetent, except when it comes to Africans. They talked about crimes against humanity, crimes of aggression. They said that we've seen all this in crimes of genocide. And again, you cannot do it except when it comes to African. That's why they withdrew themselves, and everybody around is saying, yeah, it is just normal, because we've seen what happened, and there are crimes that not even mentioned. We know there are those who started the war in Libya, Nicolas Sarkozy and Barack Obama, all these people. So they killed hundreds of thousands of people, and no one is judging them. Likewise, George Bush in 2003 in Iraq, that war, which is because of a lie, WMD, they killed 1 million Iraqis, let alone people like Eric Prince and those people involved in the war in Iraq and Niger Square and prisons in Bagram and Guantanamo Bay. All these places, and the ICC only talks about African committing crimes. So that's why they withdrew. And we need to know that these three countries, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, are very exceptional, and hundreds of millions of Africans support them, including myself, because we think most of African youth, those who know history, know that Africa never been independent till those three leaders took power, and that's true. When we read African history, we think about the 1960s independence, which is not true. This is smoke, because people think that in 1960s, most African countries got their independence. But I can tell you, especially French-speaking African countries, they are not independent, not at all. Except recently, they started getting their independence. What we learned in history books in 1960s, especially those countries being colonized by France, got their independence, it wasn't a real independence at all. It was because France got beaten, lost a war in Indochina in 1954. And at that time, France decided, the deep state of France, because we know that even politicians in France, they don't lead France. not those who are in the Elysee. Those who leading multinationals and corporate, they lead the France. That's for a very long time. So these people in the 1960s, they realized that a revolution started. French army taking a beat in Indochina, and the Algerian revolution started, and a few revolutions in African countries started. So they knew that if they pushed, these resistance are going to spread across Africa, and they will lose everything. So they decided, and they set to the goal to give African countries independence, so-called independence. So to place puppets at the head of these countries, and to give them a semblance of independence. That's what happened in what has been happening in African countries ever since 60s. So France, in at least 15 African countries, those who have their currencies printed in French bank. That's for sure, like my country, Chad, and Cameroon, and those places, Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger, all these places, they are colonized by France. They place puppets. They have the countries. They control it. They control the currency. That's what's been going on. And in 2020, a man by the name of Assimi Goïta, he took power. Yeah, with a coup d'etat, he came to power in 2020 and overthrew the former government, and he took power. And a year later, 2 years later, in 2022, Ibrahim Traoré, who is very well known, he came and took power too in Burkina Faso. And a year later, in 2023, a general by the name of Abdurrahman Tiani, he also overthrew the former president of Niger, Bazoum, who happened to be a French puppet, and he took power. So these three leaders, they formed an alliance called the Alliance of the Sahel States. And they withdrew their countries from ECOWAS, the economic community of West African West African states. They withdrew there. And when they withdrew, France and those, their former members of the ECOWAS, they even tried to invade those countries. They tried and they couldn't do it because it's going to be very bad for them. And later on, these three nations, they formed this alliance. They withdrew from G5 Sahel, which is 5 countries. The members are 5 countries: Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Mauritania, and Chad. They withdrew themselves. And again, they withdrew from Francophonie, which is like the Commonwealth. Is an institution that gather all French-speaking countries and organizations. They withdrew themselves. And again, in 2023, last year, in March, 2024, March, Niger asked the United States to shut down its military air base 201 in Agadez and to pack up. And they did. So they did that, and they drove out the French, all of them, 3. And they've been, from the very first day, against any kind of colonialism. That's the fighting has been going on, and I don't think they will leave it, and everybody's supporting them. All Africans are behind them, and we think that this is the real independence Africa is getting. It started from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. This a short story of what happened in the Sahel region with Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, with people like Assimi Goïta, Ibrahim Traoré, and Abdurrahman Tiani. So they withdrew from the ICC. That what happened. I said it earlier. This institution will be useless, and we come to new institution and new borders in some places, which looks like a joke, but is going to be very true. Is going to be economical borders, and that's what we see recently. What's happening in the Sahel region and what's happening all over the world is because a power is going down and a new power is emerging. That's what happened about the Sahel region. So let's talk about what happened in the United States.